Okay, sounds like we should be starting. I just got the note that we are live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to WorkflowCon 2025. Really excited for this session. We're going to be talking about some fun, exciting ways that you can take your monthly client reporting, make it come to life, make your clients think, wow, I have never seen something so beautiful, but more importantly, so insightful for my business. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen because we got a lot to cover. Just give me one sec. And here we are, as such. All right. Well, first thing, I'd love to invite everyone. I don't know if it's possible to turn your camera on with this setup, but I do want to hear from you. There are a few things. First, we have a free LinkedIn group exclusive for firm owners that I'd love for you all to join. I believe that link is going to go directly in the chat. And then I'd love to also hear from you. What is your firm's name? Tell us a little bit about your firm. You're welcome to even share your LinkedIn profile. We want everyone to really get to know each other over here. That's one of the beauties of being a part of such an incredible community. So I'm going to go ahead and check the chat for everyone's responses. I'm actually not sure. Do I have the ability to check the chat, or is it just my personal? Top right icon, I was told. Yeah, so I see the messages. It says direct messages sent to you. I don't see, let's see, find people's chat in the people tab. Okay, now I think I have it. All right, now I can see all of that. Perfect. All right, well, it looks like we got a really great crew over here. And why don't we go ahead and kick things off with a little bit about me, for those of you who are not familiar. I run a firm called Mighty Digits. We've been around for about 6.5 years. We work with early stage startups and we do bookkeeping, accounting operations, and probably our biggest specialty in my favorite area of finance and accounting, FP&A, fractional CFO services. But in addition to my firm, I started posting content on LinkedIn about maybe three years ago now. It was initially as a way to drive more business to Mighty Digits. What I didn't expect was that it would take on a life of its own. You may have seen my content in the past. I have also a very active YouTube channel called Your CFO Guy. And it's been a really fun experience sharing all of my insights, but more importantly, connecting with other firm owners and finance and accounting professionals to hear what everyone else is doing. On top of that, our secret sauce for a number of years with our firm was a Excel add-in that we developed that allows you to automate your financial reporting, creating beautiful dashboards and financial models with really just a simple click of a button that we stripped out and created a separate entity for that we just went live on earlier this year called Model Wiz. It's been a lot of fun working with firm owners and helping them really grow their financial reporting with our tool. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about that. But first, let's talk a little bit about my journey over here. Again, 6.5 years ago, it's June 1st, and I announced to the world that I would be returning to the entrepreneurial life. This was my second company. The first one was a little bit challenging. We admitted defeat after about 2 years, but with all of the learnings from that first failure, it really played a huge role in everything that we were doing with Mighty Digits. And as I shared my news and started picking up clients, I kept running into this problem where I would share financial reports with clients that I'm sure people can relate to, along with a bunch of other information that maybe I needed to collect from them. And there were total crickets, ghosts in the room. I wouldn't really hear much back from my clients. I didn't know if they were reviewing the reports, they weren't sending me the actual information that I need. And I was really scratching my head as to what was missing. After all, these clients were paying me to do a service. So I figured if they were paying me, it would only make sense that they would actually use my service. Well, it ties into another problem that I was having, and that is this question that I was always getting. And I'm curious if you want to let us know in the chat, how many of you still get this all the time? How exactly are you different? Most of the time that I chat with clients and prospects, they're entertaining a few other firms. They're trying to make that decision as to who exactly is the right one to work with. And I always gave different answers, but they never really felt so right. How exactly do we differentiate ourselves? I would sometimes say, well, oh, we're reliable, you could trust us, or we're competent, or we are affordable. But none of those really resonated. And I think now more than ever, it's important to really think about this question because we are in the AI world right now. And all of the things that I used to tell my clients, we are reliable, we are competent, we are cheap. Well, AI can now do all of that, right? AI is there 24/7. It has access to way more information than I have. And most of these paid plans, if you even need a paid plan from the free offerings, is maybe about 20 bucks or so a month. So this question is really what's plaguing us firm owners right now. I'm sure many of you could actually relate to this idea and is important more than ever as to how exactly we're going to solve. And on top of that, I actually just did a YouTube video in a collaboration with QuickBooks Online. And I was amazed. We still have a pretty far way to go, but I was amazed at what QuickBooks had already accomplished with these AI agents. The ability to automatically scan an uploaded PDF to extract that information, to categorize information based off of what they're seeing online or based off of historical information, to automate the actual bank rec, even to get those insights, all of that information with AI. This is really just the tip of the iceberg, the beginning of things. I hear people all the time saying, well, the AI makes so many more mistakes and it takes more time to undo it. And that may be correct. But again, we have to remind ourselves this is where we are right now. And in 6 months from now, in a year from now, the game is completely going to shift. And clients are constantly going to be asking us, what makes you different? And having that right question, being able to actually solve that is the key thing that I want to talk about in today's session. And this is one of my favorite announcements that the CEO of Fiverr made, where he was saying, look, I'm running one of the biggest marketplaces for freelancers relying on human talent. And I'm spelling this out for everyone in our company right now. AI is coming for you. All the things that you used to be able to do, well, AI now is able to do that a lot better, a lot quicker, and a lot easier. And again, it's not perfect, but the idea is what used to be difficult is now becoming the norm, the expectation. What used to be impossible is now what is going to actually impress people. So the question is, what exactly is the most valuable thing that you can offer to your clients? And I want you to really think about that question. When a client hires you, what's the most valuable thing that you could actually provide for them? This is what I came up with. The most valuable thing you can provide are strategic insights to help them actually understand not only what is happening in their business, but what is going to happen in their business, to understand any potential red flags, especially with the early stage startups that I work on. Or red flag can be that they're running out of capital, or they potentially are spending way too much on their customer acquisition costs, to help them sleep better at night because they have a professional who knows how exactly to interpret what's happening in their business and to signal any alarm bells, to provide them ultimately with that peace of mind, to make their lives easier and not the opposite. So I really want to drive home this point over here. If you're not delivering strategic insights to your clients, you are totally at risk for being replaced with a simple AI chatbot, one that could provide you any information, or an AI agent that QuickBooks is ultimately delivering. If you don't have that capability to develop the relationship with your client, to make them feel comfortable and help them ultimately better run their business, you pose there's a serious threat right now facing all of us if we don't ultimately do that. So the old way that I used to do that was as such. I would send over an email and I would say, hey, I just went through all of your books. I did the month end close. I have the profit and loss. I have the balance sheet. All that information is ultimately ready. Go ahead and check this link and let me know if you have any questions. And this is what it ultimately looks like over here, right? How many of us are doing this? You go to an accounting software, you export a monthly P&L, a monthly balance sheet, a monthly cash flow, and you say, here's the report. Let me know your thoughts. Everything looks good. Well, think about what the problem is with this over here. First and foremost, there are no strategic insights. You're relying on the client to know how to read a P&L and L and a balance sheet. But on top of that, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. They have to go line by line to understand what exactly is happening. Are there any red flags? Do they need to ultimately be concerned with anything? On top of that, this is just total data overwhelm. Even for those clients who love living in Excel, this is way too much information. How can anyone digest this? Now, I don't know if anyone here can relate, but to me, I find that my clients get fatigued very, very easily. Because think about it, they are not only trying to manage what is happening financially in their business, but they're also managing the HR, they're also managing their sales and marketing, their product, their engineering. All of that information is weighing on them. And when you provide a huge report like this, all it does is overwhelm them. Now, on top of that, it also just creates a lot more work for them, right? They hired you for the exact opposite, to take away work from their plate, not to add on to more work. And because this is how I used to ultimately share my financial reporting with the clients, this is what things looked like when I signed up with a client. In month one, they were paying me, let's say, $1,000 a month, and maybe they were with me for an average of 18 months. And because of that, the total client engagement was $18,000. Now, some of you may be thinking, hey, 18 months, that's not so bad. $1,000, that's not so bad. Maybe some of you are charging $400 or $500. Maybe, your average retention is 6 to 12 months. I hear that, but to me, this is totally not acceptable over here. This really isn't what a client engagement should look like. And before I show you what a client engagement should look like, let me show you instead what your financial reporting with your clients should actually look like to improve your ultimate engagement. And it would be something like this, where an email would be generated and I would spell out the key information about what exactly happened in their business, how that compares to maybe a prior period, a prior year, or my favorite, their budget. And on top of that, I would include a beautiful set of dashboards exported via PDF. They don't need to lose their mind in an Excel file, summarizing the key information that they need to see in their business. So now they have a fun, visually engaging way to analyze what's happening in their business along with their own little cheat sheet over here, showcasing the key things that they need to keep in mind with what exactly is going on. And when that happened, a typical client may still have started at $1,000, but then after a few months, they expanded their services. They added additional services with me. They felt even more comfortable and they expanded to 3,000. And as their company grew, so did our engagement to 5,000, to 10,000, because the clients enjoyed working with me. They were getting the most out of their actual engagement. So instead of an $18,000 engagement over 18 months, it turned into a $40,000 engagement. But there's a much bigger piece here to delivering these insights to clients. It's not just that you have a better engagement with a client. That client now refers you most likely to other clients. The majority of the CEOs that you're working with are probably part of other CEO groups of people in the same exact industry, or maybe they're working with investors who have other portfolio companies, so they're ultimately looking to refer business to. By nailing down this opportunity to deliver, to go above and beyond on what they actually paid you to do, now your engagement looks completely different than what was presented earlier. And this is actually the case directly with one of my most tenured clients over here, Nicholas from Chili Piper. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting up with Nicholas. It's amazing. Our company is entirely remote. So many of our clients we actually haven't even met with, but I had the pleasure of meeting with Nicholas. He's maybe a 4 or 5 time successful CEO. His first company was with the former CEO of Apple, John Scully, and he's done some incredible things with his career. And this is the report. This is the email that I wait for every single month. When I send him all of those insights, when I send him that financial package with these beautiful visuals, and I get an email that he forwards to his board of directors that says, here's Josh's report. Let me know if you have any questions. This is what allows him to focus on the important part of his business while feeling the confidence that he has someone maintaining and managing everything that's going on from a financial perspective. Now, it's fun to ultimately deliver these insights, but it's also not so easy. See, we firm owners, we have a lot of institutional knowledge about finance and accounting, but there's so much more to delivering strategic insights. And for that, I have three secrets that I want to share with all of you today. And the first secret is that you have a lot of this formula already in your back pocket. As a firm owner, you already have the experience and the intellectual capabilities to deliver a lot of this. Many people, they get overwhelmed by this idea of how exactly can I take a client's data, can I shape and transform it into beautiful visuals that they can ultimately understand things on? And it's really not as difficult as it looks. In fact, I like to call it the strategic finance three-circle framework. You really just need three things. The first thing is finance fundamentals. You need to ultimately understand the simple things that we learned in all of our accounting 101 classes. Double entry accounting, how to read financial statements, how those financial statements connect. All that information, you wouldn't really be able to create a firm if you didn't already have that foundation. The second thing that you need is data mastery, what I like to call data mastery. Now, when I say the words data mastery, it means being able to ingest information from different resources, whether that be your accounting software, whether that be your payroll platform, whether that be your CRM, to take that information, to shape and transform it, and to deliver it in a way that, again, doesn't overwhelm the user. So that if a client wants to take an Excel sheet and understand what their business looks like under a few key differences, such as a new hire or maybe a difference in their conversion rate, that's all directly at their fingertips with what you are able to build and present to them. Now, you can have the most incredible finance fundamentals and data masteries, but if you don't know how to actually present that information, well, it'll literally fall on deaf ears. So you need to also understand how can you present this data in a way, especially if your client doesn't have a strong financial acumen, where they could understand what's happening in their business, they could leverage that information to better run their business and sleep better at night. Now, like I was saying earlier, I think that everyone here has the majority of this formula already set up. Now, again, we spoke about the finance fundamentals, right? To me, one of the most valuable things that I learned was how to build a three-statement model. And if you're not familiar with how to build a three-statement model, it's fairly simple. The idea is, as long as you understand your debits and credits and how the financial statements ultimately connect with one another, all you need to do is connect the P&L to the balance sheet and generate a simple statement of cash flows. Now, I'm not going to go into the full details of how exactly to do that. I have tons of videos on my YouTube channel. Even if you don't provide FP&A services or fractional CFO services to your clients, I can promise you learning this will be really one of the most valuable things in your career. It's when a lot of my knowledge really took off in my journey. And when you have a three-statement model, in order to then show your client what the future can look like, is really not too much to it. There really are only 9 different methods that you can utilize in order to forecast your business. You're either taking a historical average, you're taking a percentage of your sales, you're taking maybe a dollar amount per each and every single new hire. It's pretty simple once you ultimately see that pattern. And again, you know your client's books better than your client does. You're the best person suited to provide these strategic insights. Now, on top of the financial acumen, you guys also have the financial storytelling involved. Because think about it, in order to be a firm owner, it doesn't just mean that you know how to close the books. It doesn't just mean that you understand double entry accounting, that you know how to read financial statements. You can actually articulate yourself because you can't bring on a new customer unless you hop on a call and you sell your actual services. So think of all the different ways that you're actually working with stakeholders and presenting information, collecting those inputs and making sense of it. Whether you are onboarding, whether you're working with different department heads, or you're working with management, or maybe you're even working directly with the board of directors, the key thing is to be able to explain to a client the significance of what's happening in their business. And that significance typically involves what grew from one period to another, or maybe what shrunk instead, what missed the expectations or what exceeded the expectations, and now what do you need to do because of it? Is everything okay? Was it just a timing difference? Or maybe you had a lapse in judgment? Or maybe you thought you would hire this person by this date, but in reality, you're going to hire by that other date? Again, your ability to present these strategic insights is something that you already have experience with. It's something that you're most likely already doing in your day to day operations, whether it's selling to prospects or working with these different stakeholders. The challenging part, the thing that I see firm owners get stuck on, is this third one over here: data mastery. And it makes sense. Think about it. They don't really teach you the details of how to use Excel in school. Now, maybe some of you took college courses that had like an Excel 101. I personally never really found so much value. The majority of everything that I learned with manipulating and managing and working with data came from on the job training and all the information that I consumed on the internet. Eventually, as I became a Microsoft MVP, which has been really, really fun. I actually just last year took a trip out to Seattle to meet with Microsoft's team, and it's been a wild journey. But this to me is the biggest missing link that a lot of firm owners have. You may be able to use Excel, and some people maybe are further than others. But again, think about what it means to really have data mastery. It means being able to ingest a financial report, to clean it up, to transform and shape that data, to be able to get it into a format where you can then present that information in a way that doesn't overwhelm clients, in a way that tells them the most important things that they need to be aware of, and any follow-up questions is where you can then do your deep analysis on all of the details. So this part over here I have found is where people really get tripped up the most. But there's good news, and that brings me to secret number two. There really are just 5 reports that clients need in order to understand what is happening in their business. And if you can master these 5 reports, sure, there may be some customization. Maybe clients want you to tweak some information or include a different report, but 80 to 90% of all the management strategic meetings that I sit on, the board meetings that I sit on, it's really just these 5 reports that I prepare. The first one is a KPI dashboard. Now, I'm going to be careful to say that this is my favorite report because honestly, all of them are my favorite. There are so many that I absolutely love. But what I love about this over here is, again, going back to that idea of preventing data overwhelm with clients. Instead of sending a full P&L that could potentially have hundreds of lines along with a balance sheet, I have just 8 simple KPI metrics. It shows a current period, how those key metrics then compare against a prior period and a prior year. And it showcases all the relevant information for these 8 key metrics that I care about. Now, again, a client may tell me I actually care more about ARR instead of revenue, or my customer acquisition costs instead of my OPEX. And that's fine. But over here, what I love about this is you're just taking 8 of the most important metrics and showing the relevance as it compares to different periods, ideally also including that against the budget. Now, we can't talk about a budget without getting into my second report, and that is the budget versus actuals. And this to me is probably the most valuable report that you can really showcase, especially to the board of directors, to show them that you have a grip on what's happening on the business. Now, there are so many things that I can talk about related to budget versus actuals and why I love this report. Again, tons of videos on my YouTube channel that you could ultimately find. But the idea here is you're showing leadership. This is what we thought was going to happen with the business. This is what actually took place. Now, it's okay if you have variances. The idea is not to have zero variances. In fact, that is impossible. There are market forces, there are expectations that change, there are assumptions that you ultimately have. A lot of this can be guesswork, ideally educated guesswork. But what you do need to have is a story for what exactly happened and why did that differ. You need to be able to explain. We thought that our conversion rate was going to be 10% for this sales channel. Instead, it was only 5%. We thought that our expenses would only look at, let's say, $15,000 for our legal fees, but in reality, we had to deal with this other issue, and it was really $25,000 this month. When you can showcase this actual story of what you thought was going to happen, what actually happened, why that deviated, and what decisions need to now be made in order to protect your clients, that's how you really deliver the utmost insights. Now, on top of that, there also is, again, the 3 most popular financial statements. And notice what I have with these financial statements. There are a few key differences. First, I'm not showing a detailed P&L. Again, clients don't need to understand the difference between their taxi expense and their train expense or the different professional fees that they actually paid for. This is what I like to call a summarized P&L, where we take the information and we group it into whatever buckets the client wants to actually showcase in their business. And from there, in just one glance, they could understand all three of their financial statements. Now, notice that I also have a view of all of 2025 along with an annual view. And I also have this little breaker showcasing the actuals of what took place so far and the projections of what is going to take place. So this showcases to a client what is happening in the business and what they could actually expect going forward. Ideally, each and every single month, you're revisiting your assumptions. You're taking that information and you're ultimately making sure that everything is still in line with the business's expectations. Now, I have this one other report that I want to showcase as well, and that is a comparison financial, where you can showcase any sort of financial period, what took place in this period, how that compares again to a prior period or a prior year, similar to what we showcased on the KPI dashboard, only now you have it across your summarized financial statements, ideally also including that information comparison to budget. So as long as you really have these dashboards, there's actually one more now that I remembered with 5 reports. There's also an executive summary report. Now, when I showed you that email earlier, we were taking a financial package via one attachment and then an email with the insights as to how exactly to read that information, which is helpful. What I like about a dashboard like this is it takes the best of both worlds. It allows you to understand what happened in a current period compared to either, again, a prior period, prior year, or even a budget. Utilizing Excel, you can pull in all of your data easily. And now you could also add in commentary, or ideally, one of my favorite things to do, take a snapshot of this, as long as you have the proper privacy controls on a paid ChatGPT plan. Take these snapshots, share it with an LLM, get the insights, take that information, reshape it, and now put it directly into your report. So again, it's difficult working with data, working with all these things in Excel, but if you really just work with these 5 reports, I found 90 to 95% of your client reporting can all look consistent as such, regardless of which client you're actually working for. Now, there's a third secret that I want to teach you guys. And that again comes down to how exactly to master data, how to be able to prepare the information that'll ultimately go into your client reporting, how to free up your time so that you're not spending hours and hours doing repetitive work, adding new accounts, determining where's the new account that came in this month, and relinking all that information. Every hour that you spend doing something like that is an hour that takes away from where you could be spending providing more strategic insights to these clients. And if you follow secret number 3, what I like to call the Excel SIP framework, any one of your Excel files can ultimately be automated as long as you set it up once, and every single month you're simply doing a refresh. So let's talk a little bit about how exactly this works. Now, the SIP framework that I like to call, it stands for your source tabs or your source data, your inputs, i.e. all of your formulas, and your presentations. The idea is that as long as you could separate these 3 data types, all you need to do is attach your inputs to the source information. When the source information changes each month, which it will, you're refreshing that data and you can present with the same dashboards, no changes ultimately needed. So the only thing that changes is really the source over here. Now, the challenge is that a lot of times your data comes out from an accounting software in what's known as a sorry, we have a question over here. They're wondering what software you're using to pull the data. I'm going to be sharing all that information with our tool, ModelWiz, and how we make that easy for you guys in just a minute. I love how eager everyone is. And if there are any other questions, please do put that in the chat. But I really want to drive home the fundamentals of this concept over here. A lot of times when you get information from an accounting software, you get a traditional profit and loss. It comes in what's known as a semi-structured format, where you have your accounts going vertically, you have your dates going horizontally, and then you have all the values that make it up in the middle.
The challenge is it may be easy to consume data in that format, but it's very difficult to manipulate data in that format. So what you need to do is you need to transform that source information into a structured format, which again, I won't go into all the details on right now. I have tons of videos on my YouTube channel. Power Query is an amazing resource for those of you who are not familiar. What you need to do is transform that data so that it becomes a lot more easier to manipulate. And as you manipulate that data, you're then able to attach those inputs and ultimately control your presentations. So let me just show you what that looks like over here, right? If we have a financial model, think again about what your source tabs are. Your source tabs may be a profit and loss and balance sheet directly from your accounting software. It may be a headcount export from your payroll provider. It may be a sales export from your CRM, of your existing customers, of your pipeline customers. And it could also be your non-GAAP metrics, additional information about your customers or information about certain acquisition spend across certain channels or conversion rates. These are all of your source data, right? Like we said, you want to have your source data in one location in the exact format that it comes from the system. So each month, you're just doing a copy and paste. From the source data, we then have all of the input tabs. And those input tabs are what allow you to attach all of your formulas for how you're going to project out the rest of your P&L and your balance sheet and your cash flows, the inputs for how you're going to calculate your gross salary, your payroll taxes, your conversion rates, all that information attaches itself to those source tabs. And with that, you then have the outputs where you can generate a profit and loss, like I showed you earlier, that's aggregated by monthly as well as annually on an aggregated basis, on a summarized basis, a KPI dashboard, a budget versus actuals. All of these dashboards don't need to be edited. All the information is refreshed each month with a simple update of your actual information. Now, getting back to the questions that you're all having, again, when I started my firm, I was and I still am passionate about working directly in Excel. And because of that, I studied tons and tons of things. And it's what eventually led me to become a Microsoft MVP. Right from day one, I thought to myself, there has to be a better way than doing all this manually. And I'm a huge believer in an Excel first environment. There's nothing like working in Microsoft Excel. Everyone understands a spreadsheet. Investors always want to see a spreadsheet, especially if a client's raising capital. They're going to send the information to their analyst. They want to be able to tweak the information. Excel is one of the easiest tools to learn and to customize. So I knew that whatever tool that I would create, I wanted to be Excel first. I wanted to be in a way where I automated that first part of the data coming in, the data actually transforming. Everything else was just as if an analyst built it for me. I can now update whatever I want without being maybe in a black box compared to a web app or to something that I didn't ultimately understand. And that tool is what we're now calling Model Wiz. And the way that it works is really, really simple. And it's an Excel add-in. It lives directly in Excel, and it does everything that I mentioned. It takes your accounting data, it brings it into Excel, it shapes and transforms that data, it connects all these different tabs together so that the output, with literally one click of a button, is a beautiful dashboard that you can analyze, that your clients can analyze, that you can customize just like you would with any other Excel file. And here's how it works. Right now, we have just one integration with QuickBooks Online. Ultimately, what you do is connect your QuickBooks Online account with just one click of a button. Your data remains entirely secure. In fact, we don't even see the data that comes into your Excel file unless, of course, you share it with us and you'd like for some help. All the information gets pulled into your Excel file and it is yours. We encrypt our data with two-factor authentication requirements whenever you connect any of your QuickBooks Online information. And we have a strict NDA directly in our terms of use that you can find directly on our website. And what we'll do is, once you have your QuickBooks connected, literally, you guys can try this right now. Once you have it connected with just one click of a button, you can generate any dashboard, ultimately in this format as such. If you want to customize it further, you ultimately can. If you want to keep it exactly as is, share it directly with your clients, that's totally fine as well. We've automated the tedious part, that data mastery part that I spoke about. taking your information, shaping it, transforming, doing all that data cleaning, detecting those new accounts, we do now entirely with our tool. But it's so much more than just dashboards. Again, what we spoke about earlier, being able to provide strategic insights to clients, that's the most valuable thing that you could ultimately be doing. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is by showing them what the future could look like under some key credible assumptions and how that differs from the past and how that differs from what actually took place. So that's why our FP&A tool over here is mind-blowing. What we allow you to do is you just click this create three statement model. Again, we bring in all of your data, we shape it, we transform it, we connect all three of your financial statements. We have one centralized drivers tab where any formula, cell, bring in other tabs, link to those other tabs, entirely customizable by you. You can go ahead and set. Now, for anyone who already provides fractional CFO services, who does this in Excel, you know that the most challenging part of providing these financial modeling services is not just creating the model, it's refreshing that data, it's rolling it forward each and every single month. Because what happens? A client enters a new value in their chart of accounts. And when you bring in that data, all of a sudden, instead of the lines being 203 lines, now it's 207 lines. And you don't know where are those new accounts. So you now need to fish for those new accounts. You need to add them in this tab and add them in that tab. It becomes really tedious, which is why the heart and soul of what our tool does, when you roll forward your data, we don't just copy and paste the new data. We'll determine where are the new accounts. We'll add a new line for that new account in the proper order so none of your assumptions for your other accounts get refreshed. None of them get overwritten. We then take your last month of actuals and we'll bring it forward. All of it automated directly with one click of a button directly from our tool. And there are a lot of other cool features. You could, of course, just share a snapshot. So if a client wants a quick understanding, you just send this information to them directly in an email or in a Slack message. And we also have this cool export to PDF button. For those clients who are scared of working directly in Excel, you can just press one button. We'll find all the dashboards directly in the financial model or any dashboards you created, even if they don't have forecasts, and we'll convert that directly to PDF as such. This tool, Model Wiz, again, this was our secret sauce. It is your one-stop shop for your clients to understand everything in their business, and it is so simple to use. No long implementation times, no long onboarding calls. We'll gladly do an onboarding call with you to help you get the most out of our tool, but you can use it instantly right from when you click your QuickBooks Online account. Now, we're actually working right now on a really cool new feature where you can showcase your information by class in addition to by GL account. So whether you want to summarize your information by class on a P&L like this, or whether you want to create a filter over here where the data will automatically update, we have a bunch of dashboards coming at the end of this month so that you could forecast by class in addition to GL. Now we got just a few more minutes. I want to talk about how exactly our pricing structure works and how much it costs. You guys are welcome to go to our accounting firm's website to see what we charge for our fractional CFO services. To create a financial model, we charge $3,000, and it comes with 3 one-hour sessions with a client. Now, we then charge $300 a month just to be able to manage and roll forward the model. If they don't want any additional CFO services, just to actually maintain and refresh it, we charge $300 as such. Now, that results in $6,600 to $60,000 a year that we can generate based off of these clients as such. And this is what our current pricing is. Because of that, we're charging $300 a month for our tool for the FP&A plan. But you guys are all firm owners. You guys shouldn't be paying this price over here. You guys have clients, and I want you to roll this out to each and every single one of your clients. So here's what we have. For the next 48 hours, exclusive to the members, we're going to include a link right now in the chat for those of you to take advantage of this over here. We're not going to charge you these rates. You can get this for $100 a month for your FP&A, creating full-fledged financial models, rolling forward that data. And instead of paying $75 a month, if you're only interested in the dashboards, we'll only charge $50 a month. Over here are the coupon codes that you could actually utilize. And again, we're going to include that link in the chat if we haven't already. So we're just about coming up on time over here. I don't know if there were any questions as such. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? And should I read the chat for those questions? It is $100 is the most expensive per client. It goes down all the way to $40 per client for our FP&A tool. The more that you actually use it. The discount is right now you can use it for just one client. I believe it will be applied for all of them. Right now it's $100 per one client and $50 per one client as well. I honestly don't know how we set up the actual coupon code, but it is a discount applied to whichever package that you actually choose. We're also happy to take calls with you guys. So if you guys want to book a demo and learn a little bit more about how the tool works, you can go ahead and do that directly on our site. Below the chat icon, there's a Q&A icon. Okay, got it. Let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go, Q&A as such. Perfect. All right. What are the KPIs, Shannon asks, that you recommend we pay attention to? So my favorite KPIs, again, it's always customized for the business, but I've found that the best KPIs involve the key areas of your profit and loss and the key areas of your statement of cash flows. Clients generally don't understand how to read a balance sheet, and really a balance sheet is really just supposed to help you understand the position of your business. So I typically will do revenue, COGS, gross profit. Then I'll do OPEX, net income, then cash flows, ending cash, and maybe an additional metric for like gross margin or something like that. So Shannon, thank you for that question. All right, Jessica has a question here. What do you use for your financial package? That looks great. Well, Model Wiz, and I'm excited for you to try it out. If I didn't mention earlier, we also offer an entirely free trial. So you guys can literally go ahead right now and try it out entirely for free. Connect your QuickBooks Online account and just click that Create Financial Model button and see what it'll actually create for you guys. Okay, which type of AIs have been most useful for you? Kaylee asked that. Generally, the two LLMs that I use are ChatGPT and Claude. If you're asking about LLMs, those are the most useful that I use. They help me with creating complex Excel formulas. They help me understand information from pictures. I haven't found that they're so good with actual Excel files that you could upload, though I do think that that's ultimately coming. And then, of course, there are a bunch of just AI tools. One of my favorite is WhisperFlow, where you can talk into your microphone. It'll remove any stutters. It'll add punctuation. And it's just a lot easier for you to then send messages to people there. So hopefully that helps, Kaylee. All right, Connie, aside from QBO, what would you say is the first AI tool that I should implement? I'm not sure. I actually just released a YouTube video called 20 Ways That Accounting and Finance Professionals Are Utilizing AI. You can go ahead and check that out. There are a lot of really cool stuff there. And I have a special guest with me who's an AI expert. I think you'll find value in that. So you can go ahead and check that out. All right, after the initial setup of your template, how long does it take for you to prepare monthly reports for your clients? Well, that's the beauty. You really just hit a refresh button. Any new accounts get surgically added, nothing gets overwritten. You can easily compare what happened to what you thought would happen. So it's really just a click of a button. The actual tool takes maybe about 5 minutes to run with all the automations that it does in Excel, but that's the beauty, right? It speeds up all of the information. All right, these are great questions. We got a few other questions here. What are your thoughts on Power BI versus Excel for dashboards and client experience? So what I love about Power BI is their dashboards are pretty enhanced compared to Excel, and it's really easy to share that externally as well. But I haven't found that it's so easy when you're dealing with, let's say, a financial model where you want to control all the different inputs. You want to enter in information, you want to enter in new hires, you want to enter in different things for your actual sales. To be able to then see the information, you need to kind of create a sync between Excel and Power BI. So I personally have a lot more experience with Excel, and I like to keep that all in Excel. I think Power BI is a lot more valuable, especially because it works with structured data. It's a lot more valuable when you're dealing with, let's say, like a database export. Let's say you're dealing with like an e-commerce company that has thousands and thousands of Shopify records, and you want to showcase information for a specific zip code. That's what I found to be better when it comes to Power BI. But again, candidly speaking, I don't have as much experience with Power BI. So if anyone has any other thoughts, I welcome them in the chat. All right, do Google Sheets work the same way as Excel for these reports? Unfortunately, it does not. Our tool right now is only Excel. We are Excel first. There are a lot of functions and capabilities that Excel offers that Google Sheets doesn't offer. And we may eventually expand to Google Sheets, but for right now, it's all in Excel. All right, Jessica has a question. When you start a client sharing insights with the new clients, how many KPIs or insights do you start out with? Do you start out with a few and then add more, or have a few common ones out of the box no matter which client you have? So again, I usually start with some boilerplate ones. As I get to know their business better, again, like I was saying earlier, if it's a SaaS company, SaaS founders typically don't care as much about GAAP revenue. They care a lot more about annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. They also oftentimes care about SaaS metrics. If I'm working with an e-commerce company, they may care about e-commerce metrics like average order value or repurchase rate. So usually to start, I'll prepare these boilerplate ones because again, any client needs to understand the profitability of their business and the cash flows of their business. And that's why I also do the 3 financial statements. I'll oftentimes then, as I'm working with them to create a financial model, I'll customize and include some additional metrics, which again is another reason why I love Excel, right? It's not as easy to customize metrics in a separate tool that's a black box. You don't know how it's being calculated and how you could ultimately edit it. That's why I love Excel. So I hope that answers your question. That was a good one. Thank you, Jessica. All right, we got 3 minutes to go. Maria's got a question. How to handle the conversation when clients seem to want to own my actual Excel model that I built, say for reinvesting back into the business. But it is my proprietary model. Or should I price it and offer some version of it, knowing scope ends? So I personally am a very big believer that everything that we create for our clients is really their property. Now, it doesn't legally have to be that way, but clients get nervous when they hear that you're going to do work for them that is going to be your property because then they're going to think they have to be married to you. That's going to create a really challenging switching cost. So all of our financial models, in addition to the tool, right? It's all entirely theirs to use. What I have found instead is there are certain things that clients can't do with just these models. Again, clients don't understand how to shape and transform data. They don't understand how to read or manipulate revenue bills. That's where they really depend on someone like you. So I like to make them depend on my insights and expertise and less on the actual tools and spreadsheets, because ultimately it really should be their property. But that's just my personal opinion of things. All right, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. These are so great. I love all of this energy. Carla from TimeWise Solutions. I've been running my own bookkeeping business since 2016, specialty S corps. Oh, okay, cool. Mario, does it integrate with Zero? It will next year. Right now, unfortunately, it is only QuickBooks Online. What about pulling reporting by customer or project? We do have the ability to pull information like that from QuickBooks in our tool, but it wouldn't be a way that you could refresh and tie it to your financial models. It would speed up your time so you don't have to go into QuickBooks and you could easily switch clients. We may, in addition to classes, offer this project feature. That's something we've been asked for a bunch. It's just a bit complex and it adds a lot more data, so we haven't really prioritized it yet, but that's a great question. All right, time to wrap it up. Cool, guys, this was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Again, I would love to do a personal demo of any of this for you guys, or if you want to just connect and say hi, you could add me on LinkedIn. Just add in the message that you found me from WorkflowCon. You could also send me a message, josh@yourcfoguy.com for all of my content, and josh@modelwiz.com for the Excel tool. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much, WorkflowCon, for having me, and I'll see you guys all next time.